tonight. Hopefully it will be a valuable session. I think I know most of you, but just in case I don't know you or you've seen me at yoga, but nowhere else, I am a pediatrician. I'm Jessie Mahoney, and I'm a pediatrician in San Francisco. And I am also a certified life and relationship coach. I also teach yoga and mindfulness, and I've done a lot of work in physician wellness actually since 2002. And that is how I ended up in the yoga and coaching and mindfulness world, because those were the tools that I found to be the absolute most helpful in all of the wellness tools that I came across in my journey. And so these days I'm doing primarily coaching in my own business called Pause and Presence. And I'm helping to lead the Mindful Healthcare Collective with a group of fantastic women physicians who are offering lots of beautiful offerings to share with everyone during COVID. And Ni Cheng and I recently launched this podcast called the Mindful Healers Podcast. So if you haven't checked it out, I encourage you to do so. It's a passion project for us and fun, and hopefully there'll be some good learnings there. And because tonight is about relationships, just to tell you a little bit more about me and my relationships, I am a mom of 3 sons who are 15, almost 21, and 24 and a half. And I had one in med school, one in residency, and one afterwards. And I have been married for 27 and a half years. And my husband, I think many of you know, but struggles with some mental health issues himself. He's had some depression, he has ADD. My son also has ADHD. So a lot of the relationship struggles come from working through that and trying to find solutions that work for everyone and make relationships just work that much more smooth. So this relationship work is really my passion, because I find that when our relationships at home don't work, nothing else works. And we often think that as physicians, our work is separate from our home, and our home is separate from our work. And we talk about work-life balance. And I think in medicine, it's really very difficult to have a balance, and our work seeps into our life, and our life seeps into our work. So I like to call it maybe integration, or I actually just like to call it all life, and realize that they're not really separate. And so when we're struggling with our relationships, it really does impact our work as a physician, but it also impacts us as humans. And I see so many people I work with really struggling. And we often don't even know what we're struggling with, whether it's the relationships that's getting in the way. A lot of what we learn as physicians, we bring home, trying to control things and fix things and manage things. And it doesn't actually work that fantastically as a parent and a spouse. And so in this work as a pediatrician, we do lots of work on relationships. And what I discovered when I got coached myself and also began coaching people is that this work can really change everything. It changes not just your work life or your home life. It can change your health. It changes sort of the way you approach the world. And I actually have been thinking about it a little bit, because for me, yoga and coaching actually overlap tremendously. And it's this idea of that sort of ease with which you move through Shavasana and the breathing poses, and how can you bring that to the rest of your life? So we often make things very complicated as physicians. And I say that with compassion, because I'm one, and I used to make things complicated and probably still do more than they need to be, but just realizing that that's our physician brain trying to solve and fix everything. So I like to start with a little bit of mindfulness just to help us all settle, and because this is a mindfulness group. And so with that, I even brought my yoga bowl today, because I feel like it helps ground us, especially after a long day. So find wherever you happen to be. And if you're driving, I saw Ni Cheng driving, please don't do this, but find a comfortable seat wherever you are. And if you're in bed on the East Coast, fantastic. Just ground yourself into whatever you're sitting on, and take a moment to just settle and breathe and focus on your breath. Listen to the sound for a moment. And as the sound recedes, focus on your breath. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Notice the spaciousness coming into your chest as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And send that spaciousness into that pocket in your chest, perhaps behind your heart, and just create a little bit more space. Mindfulness can be very healing for relationships because we need that spaciousness to show up with intention, and we need that spaciousness to feel, and spaciousness to treat ourselves and others with love and compassion. So as you sit and breathe, I wanted to just offer some thoughts as we start. What is the value of improving your relationships? At the end of your life, most of us say the most important thing is our relationships. But for most of us, our actions each day, and even potentially our monetary investments, don't align with this. What is the value of having easeful and connected relationships with those that you love? What is the value of finding calm, peace, harmony, and contentment? There's a tremendous cost to anger, resentment, guilt, withdrawing, and constantly wishing someone else would change or be different. When we try to control things and people and wish their behavior would change, we expend valuable energy and time in inefficient and often counterproductive ways. The one thing that you can control in all your relationships is you. Take a deep breath in through your nose and a big out breath. Bring your left hand to your heart and bring your right hand to top and just press gently into that heart space. We are not held back by the love we didn't receive in the past, but by the love we are not extending in the present, is a favorite quote. Can you extend love to yourself in this moment? Realizing that your heart nourishes itself first. Those of you who are cardiologists know this well. And from there, it sends oxygen, nourishment, and love everywhere else. So in this mindfulness relationship work, focus on yourself. We can't nourish and love everyone else from an empty cup, as we like to say. Send that nourishment and love into your chest. Press in with that left hand and just notice the release of the positive feeling and enjoy it for a moment. So I'm going to share one more thing as you sit and reflect. It's called mindful presence. I've done a lot of work over the last few years on myself through coaching and mindfulness, and one of the most powerful and positive impacts was on my relationships. I thought I was a pretty good parent and a pretty good wife before. I had been married for a long time, and my kids turned out pretty well. We had good times and great times, and not so good times and bad times. But I also saw and thought parenting was work. And I saw and described working at my marriage. I didn't often pause and be present and fully enjoy the incredible moments along the way. I spent a lot of time looking ahead and behind. As physicians, we're trained to do this. We have high expectations for everyone and everything. Vacations, children's, holidays, date nights. We put so much effort and love in all the time for everyone. We think the outcome should reflect that. This is also true at work. We are trained to think that it's our job to influence all of the outcomes. The more we can control things, the better they'll turn out. And in our lives at home, we often try to control things that are not in our control, especially with those we love. When you change yourself, everything changes. You enjoy the journey more. What's important still gets done. And there's more energy and time for connection and forward movement. When given space, magical things can start to emerge and happen. And you have the space to notice and experience them. So take a moment, breathe in through your nose once again, and press your hand into that heart space. Send yourself some compassion and love. Notice if there's any more space in your chest to think a little more openly, receptively, creatively. What might it be worth to change how you show up? What is the value of that for your relationships and for the rest of your life? Take in a final deep inhale through your nose and a huge exhale. And lower your hands down to your thighs and open your eyes and let the light in. And I would love it if whoever wants to turn their video back on so we can see one another, but you don't have to, there's no obligation. And what I wanted to do tonight was do some live coaching if people are interested in getting coached, and I'm happy to do that on the spot. I think that it's usually incredibly valuable for others, even if you don't have the same home situation. A lot of the same principles apply. So if anyone is comfortable doing that, you can, I learned this from Sarah Dill, on the reactions, you can click on the hand and it shows up on you can raise your hand, or you can unmute yourself, and I'm happy to call on you that way. The other thing I would be interested in is if people wanted to put their struggles in the chat box, because I think often we feel very much alone in our relationships, and especially in this time of COVID, everyone's relationships are struggling. And we've been closer with those that we share space with, but it also brings up a lot more challenges. And then the challenges of being physicians in this time and being in relationships and families with physicians makes things even more challenging. So if you feel more comfortable putting your concerns or things you want me to address in the chat box, I'm happy to do that. Let me just see, you guys are on 2 pages, so I don't see anyone's hand up yet. So feel free, or if you can't raise your hand, you can also unmute. And in the interim, I was going to share a couple tips because I know it takes people a little bit of time to get comfortable sharing, and especially on relationships. I also wanted to add that for physicians, we're often very sensitive about vulnerability. And one thing I'm going to do actually is turn off the recording for this part. So let me do that, which I meant to do before. So give me one sec.